This week's true story from the Bible comes from Exodus chapters 19 and 20. Last week we left off with Joseph inviting his family to live in Egypt where he would make sure they were cared for. A pretty sweet deal considering they once sold him as a slave just because they didn't like him. Anywho, Joe's family took him up on the invite and eventually they became the people known as the Israelites. They were a big family to start with, and every generation got bigger. And that made the big boss of Egypt, Pharaoh, awfully nervous.
What if they took over and he lost all his power?
Pharaoh took care of that. He made the Israelites slaves for 400 years. They prayed for rescue. And when the time was right, God sent a guy named Moses to free them. Moses had a lot of talks with Pharaoh to convince him to let the Israelites go. But Pharaoh was stubborn. So God showed him who's boss. Pharaoh was finally like, okay, they can go. Woohoo! The Israelites left Egypt and began a very long journey to the land God had promised Abraham way back when. After a few months, the Israelites set up camp in the wilderness near Mount Sinai. On their third day there, they looked up and saw Mount Sinai was wrapped in smoke. God came down from heaven in fire and trumpet sounds, and he called to Moses in a voice like thunder, saying to come up the mountain. I don't know about you, but if God calls to me in a thunder voice, I'm doing what he says, like right now. So Moses went up the mountain, and God spoke to him again in a thick cloud. God said to remind the Israelites of how he had rescued them from Egypt. That shows that they're his chosen people, and if they just obey him, he'll take care of them and guard them like treasure. Then God gave Moses these 10 commandments for the people to follow. Don't worship any other gods. Don't make any idols. Don't misuse God's name. Honor God by resting on the 7th day of the week. Honor your parents. Do not murder. Honor your marriage promises. Don't steal. Don't say things that aren't true. Don't covet or want what other people have. These were the rules, or laws, God gave to the Israelites. God literally wrote the rules in stone for them, which was smart because we humans need help knowing what's right sometimes. Moses shared God's message and commandments with the people, and they said they'd obey all of them. God loves us enough to give us life instructions, but none of us can keep all his commands because we're not perfect. The laws show us how much we need Jesus. He's the perfect one. And he took the punishment for all of the times we break God's deal. Because Jesus died on the cross and rose from the dead, he defeated sin and made a way for us to be right with God forever.